You're listening to Reformed Thinking. Today, we're jumping into a really challenging idea from C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. He basically says that our whole idea of being a good person is completely backward, and the true Christian life is something way more intense, and believe it or not, way more freeing than we usually imagine.
So, Lewis just throws this question out there, and it's a big one. What if the whole project of trying to be good on our own steam is doomed from the start? What if it's the one thing that we are literally incapable of doing?
Lewis lays out these two paths, and they couldn't be more different. See, most of us are on the ordinary morality track. We start with our own wants and desires, and we try to do enough good things to feel like we've paid our dues, our moral taxes. But Lewis says that road just leads to frustration, or you just give up. The Christian way, though, starts somewhere else entirely. It begins with Christ's claim on your entire life. The goal isn't just to give him a percentage, it's to hand over everything. And the result isn't a better version of you, but a whole new you.
And this gets us to the core puzzle of his whole argument. How can the Christian way be both harder than anything we could ever attempt, and at the same time somehow easier than the halfway effort most of us are stuck in every single day?
So, what is it that makes the Christian way so different? Well, it all kicks off with the fact that Christ's demand isn't up for discussion.
Lewis pictures Christ saying it just like this. He doesn't want a slice of your time or a bit of your money. He wants you, your whole being. It's a total, all-or-nothing proposition.
And the goal? Well, it's pretty shocking when you hear it put this way. It's not about tweaking your behavior or becoming a nicer person. The point is the death of our natural self, that part of us that always wants to be in charge and pushes God away. It sounds harsh, but Lewis says this is the only way to find what real life is all about. He uses these really strong images to drive the point home. You can't just trim a few bad habits here and there, like pruning branches. The whole tree has to come down. You don't just put a filling in a tooth that's rotten to the core. You pull the whole thing out. But this death he talks about isn't just an ending. It's really an exchange. You hand over your broken, natural self, and in return, you get a new one. Actually, you get Christ himself, and his will starts to work as your will. Okay, so let's get back to this paradox. I mean, how on earth can handing over everything, this whole death of the self thing, be easier than just trying to be a decent person?
Here it is, laid out plain and simple. That first step, the total surrender, it feels absolutely terrifying, almost impossible. But what Lewis is arguing is that taking that one huge, difficult step is actually much, much easier than the constant, exhausting struggle of trying to be good while also keeping yourself on the throne of your life. That's the thing that's truly impossible.
Let me put it another way. Think of a lazy student in a geometry class. He might just memorize the formula for the test because it feels easier right now. But the student who puts in the hard work to actually understand why it works, well, geometry becomes easy for him down the road. The shortcut ends up being the long way around.
And then he gives us this picture, and you just can't forget it. He says, look, it might be hard for an egg to turn into a bird, but it would be a jolly sight harder, and in fact impossible, for it to learn to fly while it's still an egg. You can't do bird things if you're committed to staying an egg. A complete change has to happen first.
Okay, so what does this actually look like in our day-to-day lives? According to Lewis, the real fight doesn't happen where you'd think.
It all starts the second your eyes open in the morning. Before your feet even hit the floor, all your plans, your worries, your ambitions for the day, they just rush in. Lewis says they come at you like wild animals. And your first job isn't to organize them or deal with them, it's to just shove them all back. You have to make some quiet space to listen for a different voice, that larger, stronger, quieter life, and let that life, Christ's life, set the tone for your day. And this isn't just the 5-minute devotional, it's a battle you have to fight all day long.
So all of this hard work, this daily battle, what's it all for? Lewis is incredibly direct about what he thinks the entire point of Christianity and the church is.
It boils down to this one thing. Lewis says the church has one and only one reason to exist, to draw people into a relationship with Christ so that they can become little Christs. That's the mission, full stop.
And he's not messing around with this point. He says if the church isn't actually accomplishing that one goal, then everything else is a complete waste of time. The beautiful cathedrals, the clergy, the mission trips, the sermons. He says even the Bible itself becomes pointless if it's not being used for that one purpose. They're all just tools to get to that one end. I mean, he couldn't say it any plainer. This process of being remade into Christ's image,
That's not just a piece of Christianity. That is Christianity. There's nothing else. It's the only reason, he says, we were ever created. And that leads us to his final, unavoidable choice. He says right now, we're all like eggs. We can go through the messy, difficult business of being hatched into something new and alive. Or we can refuse. But as Lewis points out, an egg that refuses to be hatched doesn't just stay a nice, decent egg forever. Eventually, it just goes bad. So the question he leaves hanging in the air is pretty simple. Are you going to be hatched or are you going to go bad?